Good morning, everyone. I don't know if there's ever the right words for a moment like this. What I do know is that for the last 35 years, Anne wasn't just one of my best friends. She was like family. She was one of the brightest lights in my life. Anne and I first met through her daughter, Erin, when Erin was just 8 years old. I was Erin's daycare provider. Back then, while Anne was working as a family advocacy counselor. What started out as a simple conversation quickly grew into a lifelong friendship. Our kids became close, and our families blended together. And before long, Anne and I were sharing life in so many ways. We discovered early on that we loved cooking, a good glass of wine, and tackling just about any task between our homes. But more than that, Anne and I shared a bond built on kindness, laughter, and the kind of friendship you can only find once in a lifetime. When Anne and Erin moved to Germany for her work, it opened a whole new chapter for us. My very first trip to Europe was to visit her and Erin. From that moment forward, I was hooked on travel. It became a passion that has stayed with me for my life, all because Anne opened that door. Every year, I'd set off on trips to see her and Anne. We'd go off on little road trips all through Europe. Some of the fondest memories with Erin. She in the back seat, always taking pictures, laughing, making us crack up. We stayed in bed and breakfasts, explored new cities, and of course, every church we could find. Through her, I learned so much about history and culture. Memories I'll treasure forever. I'll never forget during these stays at these cozy little inns. Anne would always say, especially with a glass of wine in her hand, "You know, we should quit our jobs and open a bed and breakfast." She had it all planned out. Beautiful linens, wonderful food, good wine, great conversations. Anne said she would do the cleaning. I would take care of the marketing, and the books. Later in my professional life, I came to a crossroads where I was deciding what to do next. When I found myself reflecting on Anne's old mantra about the two of us running a B&B, well, I jumped in with both feet. I started researching what it would look like. I went on a search for the perfect location, and I found it in Oregon. It was not just for me, it was for Anne as well. I started sketching out layouts of the B&B, the house planning, the rooms for guests, and of course for Anne and I. The B&B broke ground in 2002, and in 2004, on Valentine's Day, we opened up with a wonderful full house and a wine dinner. I kept hoping Anne would join me one day as the cleaner, just like she always promised. And for 19 years, that bed and breakfast flourished. It became an award-winning wedding venue. I finally decided I had enough of the fine linens, food, wine, and the cleaning. Anne never did join me in that venture. Her deep love of her own work carried her in different locations. And yes, I'll always admit I was disappointed she didn't come to share in the dream she herself had planted all those years ago. But in truth, she was there. She was the inspiration behind it, and she was the spark. That piece of Anne will always live in that chapter of my life. Then, of course, when you traveled with Anne, there was always laughter. Now, Anne was the most cautious and patient driver I have ever known. She always gave the right of way to everyone, stopping for every pedestrian and every car. One trip, it was just the two of us, and well, getting lost was Anne's specialty. She got us turned around, and we ended up in a shopping center parking lot. She told me not to worry. She could get us out of this and I'm back on the road in no time. So around we go, we end up back in the same parking lot. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. It was a busy lot that took us forever to get through. She stopped for every car and every pedestrian. I think we must have spent 2 hours in that lot. At one point, I turned to her and said, "Anne, you'd probably wait for a line of escargot to cross the street." We just lost it. We laughed so hard, all those belly-shaking laughs. Tear-filled. One that I will always remember, and the one that silly moment became a favorite memory she and I relived year after year. That was Anne, sweet, genuine, and patient, generous, a woman with a steady heart and unbreakable values. In time of need, her first question was always, "How can I help?" Friendship was her art. She made the ordinary feel extraordinary, simply by the way she cared. Anne leaves behind a daughter she loved with all her heart, along with her grandson, Jack, son-in-law, Brent. Friends who adore her, and a legacy of compassion, laughter, and kindness. She was wonderful, kind. A beautiful soul. While our hearts are heavy today, I know she would want us to carry her spirit forward, to be patient, to be kind, to love fully just as she did. Rest in peace, my dear friend. You'll always be with me.